Good morning from day 2 of SEC Media Days. I'm Elijah Campbell here live in Atlanta, Georgia at the College Football Hall of Fame. Back at home in Columbia at our home studios. Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen here for another early morning of talking college football with you. Gang, how are we doing? And did we make it through? Did you guys also make it through yesterday of a long day of press conferences and cuts?
Well, I guess the question is not if we made it through because we were home. The question is if you made it through because there was a lot of words coming your way. So I guess our question is, did you make it through? How'd you make it out?
By like 3 or 4 o'clock, I felt like I was, trying to tape my eyes open. I had to take a couple laps around what they're now calling Digital Drive. They're not calling it Radio Row, I guess, this year. They've enhanced the name or modernized.
Wait.
Let's can't even have our own row anymore.
Let's stop there, Jen. How do we feel about this?
I don't like it. What are we trying to get rid of radio? What is this? What is what?
Digital Drive. I don't want to live on that. I don't think I love that neighborhood.
Is Digital Drive like a street in Lawsuit City? I don't know. I hope not.
Actually, probably it is.
It very well could be. I mean, there can be, a way in which that is a neighborhood in Lawsuit City, but no longer Radio Row.
I don't like that. Speaking. No, make that stop.
See, I've been referring to it as Radio Row all day. It's not going to stop me. I think it's like the Twitter X thing. I'm just going to keep calling it Twitter, even though it goes by a different name. I still am referring to it as Radio Row.
Digital Drive is when they gentrify a neighborhood. It's like, we're calling it Digital Drive now. It's not Radio Row anymore. It's Digital Drive.
No. There's still radio. There may be digital too, but there's still radio. We still get to keep it. Gosh darn it.
See, here's the thing, too. I'm surrounded by other radio stations, right? Like, to my left and right, still, radio stations. Because, I guess,
you want to make sure that you're bringing the right.
Is on Texas football, and I think they're an online type show. But then, like, on the other side is you have a lot of, like, more of the video podcasts that are mostly on online stuff.
Don't care. We were there first.
We were here first.
I'm planting that flag.
Plant the flag.
I love
Radio Row forever.
We're the last of a bygone era. Not yet. We're still holding on.
Yeah.
Hold the fort.
We're trying.
Elijah, I got a question. So yesterday there was a lot of people talking. A lot. If we were to put this on a fireworks scale, let's start with the index right now. Fireworks. From Sparkler to, say, M80. Yesterday's events, where would you put it?
I would say more like Roman candles.
Okay.
Because it's just a bunch of like mass, like, like rapid shooting of small little short bursts. I don't feel like there was anything completely groundbreaking. Now, in the next hour, we're certainly going to get to Greg Sankey's comments. Out of the entire press conference from Greg yesterday, I think this like the most
boring,
impactful stuff. Yeah, I mean, that is like 98% of it, I'm afraid. But like there was 2% where I was like, interesting. And that's where he kind of flexed the memorandum of understanding a little bit, kind of reminding the Big 12 and the ACC who the decision makers are. And even in a way, the Big 10. We'll play that later on in the show as well, because I know we have some thoughts on the type of flexing that Greg Sankey had yesterday. But Shane spoke for a little bit. I will say, Shane Beamer last year, I believe his opening statement was 17 minutes long. And that was easily the leader in the pack in terms of the longest opening statement. I think the coaches have kind of figured out that when they've done this for enough years, where the longer your opening statement goes, the fewer questions you have to take.
Mm-hmm.
And last year he went for 17 minutes. I clocked it yesterday, 15. Is he losing his fastball?
Like as we said, I guess we're fortunate to have Shane in our market, because Shane does talk, and he's very gracious when he talks, and he talks a lot. And he's, I would say, out of the coaches, Shane is pretty transparent, or at least enough that you can, without doing too much digging, you can figure out what he really thinks about an issue. He doesn't really hide behind his self a lot. So I do say we're fortunate in that aspect, that he does talk a lot, and you can pretty much gauge where he is on the issue based on how he's talking and what he's saying.
It is. We appreciate Coach Beamer's transparency. And yesterday, it wasn't just all opening statement for Coach Beamer. He did elaborate he did take some questions and was able to elaborate on some things that happened last year and what we're talking about going into this year. One of those, Cut 6 Gen, was not resting on the laurels from last year. They had a 9-win season. They were, one slow half in the first half away from maybe beating Illinois and getting 10 wins and doing something that this program hasn't done very frequently. And now they're on a mission to go from 9 wins to 10 wins. So here's Shane yesterday talked about not resting on the laurels from last season.
That just because it happened last season doesn't mean it just automatically happens this year. I mentioned it upstairs with the electronic media, but there's plenty of examples of teams across the country every year in college football that they're getting pumped up all summer long, and then they go out week one and get smacked in the face and never recover. I mean, that happens every year, and it's because just because it happened last year doesn't mean it happens this year. And for our team, it's making sure our guys realize all the work that went into 2024. It's going to take all that and even more for us to go where we want to go in 25, building on the things that we did last season without a doubt, but then looking back at the things that we didn't do well and making sure that we improve those, because, people want to talk about the close losses that we had last season, a 2-point loss to Alabama, a 3-point loss to LSU. I realize that, but nobody wants to talk about the 4-point win against Old Dominion. And then we had a 3-point win against Clemson and a 4-point win against Missouri. So understanding that in this league, like every Saturday is a battle, and it's a fine line between winning and losing, and understanding that we got to be doing every little detail, every little small thing, even though they're not small things, to get where we want to go next year or this year.
I like the leading into some teams have really good years, and then the next year they get popped in the mouth in the first game of the year. And he also alluded to the Old Dominion game last year, where Old Dominion probably gave them a little bit more of a scare, and that's an understatement of the day, a little bit more of a scare than they probably anticipated. And this year, you're starting off with Virginia Tech. You have no time to ease your way into the season because Virginia Tech can get you on week one if you don't come to Atlanta in late August prepared.
Yeah, I guess Shane's alluding to the idea that at some point, last year is going to be over. I guess we can still bask in the glow of last year, and last year was an awesome season. But there is going to be a point. I don't know whether it's when the whistle blows for the first practice, or maybe it's after SEC media days. I'm not sure when it happens, but at some point we're going to have to just turn around. Even though last year was great, we're going to have to face forward and go into the next year. So I'm sure that's what he's preaching. Us as fans, maybe we get to live it for a little bit longer. Couple more days, maybe a few more weeks of the awesomeness that was last year. But eventually we're going to have to move into the reality that is 2025.
Oh, yes. And that's the thing, too. You don't almost even want guys talking too much about last year because there's still so much work to be done. I think another underrated part of that cut right there was talking about understanding the work that went in from going from 5 wins in 23 to 9 last year. It was a big jump. But the jump it needs to be, from 9 wins to 10 wins, needs to be ingrained in their heads right now. That's probably the harder jump to make. And the work you put in last year, you have to not only replicate, but you got to add on top of that too. It's a continuous growth mindset there. And again, if you just don't have that, man, you play a Virginia Tech team on week 1 that lost 5 one-score games last year. If they had, maybe a little better luck, or if Brent Pry manages the game a little better, we're thinking about this Virginia Tech game in week 1 a lot more differently than we currently are.
Yeah, and when you think about, and when you look at the messages, is simply they won 9 games. You haven't won any games. Especially when you're looking at the defense, TJ Sanders won 9 games. Tonka Hemingway won 9 games. Boogie Huntley won 9 games. Nick Emenwari won 9 games. You have not. If you look at Jalen Kilgore, you were part of that. There were a couple other players. Judge Collier, you were part of that. But for the majority of most of y'all were on the sidelines being cheerleaders. No disrespect, but they won 9 games. You haven't quite done that yet. So I love the idea of saying, like, yes, we were as a program successful, but many of us who are stepping on the field now, we haven't done it yet.
Right, and there's if you're Virginia Tech too, I mean. I just now thought of this as well. Like that point that you just made, that they're coming into this game and they're saying, look, yeah, Carolina is going to be heavily favored. I think right now They still might be 6.5-point favorites. I think that line's been out for a while, but that the number's like hovering 6.5, 7.5-point favorites. It's going to be expected that South Carolina go in there that Sunday on Labor Day weekend and take care of business. Not necessarily the assumed case. Virginia Tech's bringing a quarterback back. They've got a defense that's almost completely back. Really, their top 2 tacklers are back, and they added some dudes in the transfer portal when it comes to edge rushing and guys that are going to be tasked with getting after Lenoris on that game. Like, it's one of those things, too, where reality can set in pretty quick. Look no further than LSU. What's LSU done the last 3 years, right? Go into seasons with really big expectations, and rightfully so because they have loaded rosters, and they go into the opening week of the season and they fall on their face. Last year to Southern Cal, the previous 2 years to Florida State. And doesn't completely change the trajectory of your year, but for LSU, there was no building on the success of the previous year because by the time they got to week 1, a non-conference opponent in a big spot in a primetime matchup smacks them upside the head, and reality sets in that you're not where you think you need to be to start the season.
Yeah, and you have to crawl back from that. You mentioned that LSU had lost to Florida State. What about what happened to Florida State last year? Even though it was an omen for the terrible season that was to come, they were coming off of, essentially trying to write a law to Congress about them. Well, actually, they did have lawmakers challenge the system about them not getting in the playoffs, and that momentum did not carry into the next year. Once they ran into Britt run the ball key at Georgia Tech, it was a wrap for the season. So it happened pretty quickly. That season was DOA. And this is a cross sport reference here, but in basketball locally, we came off of the tournament. Man, this next season's gonna go, and then we run into North Florida. It's over. The season is essentially done, right? So they have to be ready to go as soon as the season starts.
That's such a good analogy too, because there's some parallels, right? Like that basketball team got back some of the key players from the previous season. Your best player, Colin Murray Boyle's return. You had, guys like Miles Studi, some of the holdovers, Morris Ugasuk, a couple of the guys that were on that team the previous year and played big roles. But then you also had to bank on a lot of transfers hitting, right? Jamari Thomas was a guy that came in. Nick Pringle. You needed those guys to assimilate. And defensively, that's almost the exact same thing. You get back Dylan Stewart. You get back Jalen Kilgore, some of your best players from that defense last year, but you're having to supplement a lot of those other roles with players who are unproven in this program. And, of course, and some of them not necessarily proven at the college football level at all. We're talking about Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy as what he can be, considering what he was in high school. We're talking about Sean Murphy, about what we think he can be based on how we finished the season at Florida State last year on a team that didn't have much to play for. We like what those guys can bring physically, but these haven't done it yet at the SEC level and at South Carolina. And specifically, one more cut I wanted to play too. This is cut 14. We talk about the defense having to replace a lot of guys. Shane Beamer was pretty transparent about everything he has to replenish on the special team side of the ball.
And then in special teams, this will be my 26th year in coaching coming up. And I don't believe I've ever been a part of a team that has to replace literally every key part of their special teams units like we do this season. We'll have a new punter. We'll have a new place kicker. We'll have a new kickoff guy. We'll have a new holder. We'll have a new snapper. We'll have a new punt returner. And we'll have a new kickoff returner. So we've been very spoiled. Every punt that we've punted, the football at South Carolina since I've been the head coach, Kai Kroger has punted the ball. So the first time we punt, and hopefully that won't be anytime soon, we'll have a new punter out there as well. But those are guys that are young and talented, and excited to see what we do in year 2 under Joe DeCamillis as our special teams coordinator. We've got to continue to be aggressive and opportunistic there. We've led the SEC in block kicks since 2021.
And that's a lot to figure out on the special team side, but there's a lot more to figure out on the offense. With Mike Shula calling the plays now, should we expect more from the tight end room? And can Michael Smith have a Josh Simon-esque breakout season? We'll break that down next on the Early Game, live from SEC Media Days.
Preston here for our friends at Integrated Media. Listen, we've been trying to tell you all along that you need to get yourself ready. And now, guess what? The football season is barreling down on you. We are 47 days to kick off. It is right here. You need to get it done. You need to call the folks from Integrated Media so you can get your outdoor setup ready. You can get Samsung Terrace TVs that are waterproof. You can get speakers that work indoor and outdoor. You can get your Wi-Fi set up so that you can watch all of your devices at one time. You can have your phone, your laptop, your tablet, your TV, split screen, multi-screen, whatever it is that you need to do, you can get that all set up with the folks from Integrated Media. You need Wi-Fi that works indoors and outdoors. So from home theater setup to adjusting your thermostat or monitoring your security system from your cell phone, Integrated Media is who you need to call. Call Nathan and Michael at 803-948-8327 or get them online at integratedmediainc.com.
No accidents to report at this time. That's really good news. And there is something out there called Operation Southern Slowdown. So, going to be monitoring speeds a little more closely in several southern states through July 20th. So, just keep that in mind so that you're behaving as you should anyway. But just to give you an extra heads up on that. 92 for the high today, 92 tomorrow, 94 on Thursday. Each and every day we'll have some humidity and those opportunities for some afternoon or evening pop up showers. 75 currently on 107.5 The Game.
Our coverage here at SEC Media Days live in Atlanta, brought to you by Lawyer Lisa. Need to talk estate planning, elder law, elder care, or probate? Call Lawyer Lisa, 803-563-5163, or just go to lawyerlisa.com. Preston Thorne, you're a fan of the tight ends, right?
I am a huge fan of the tight ends. I'm not quite throw it to the tight end guy. I'm not him all the way.
Okay.
But tight ends are any part of a team that I'm involved with. I like you to have a nice, solid tight end.
You're not the tight end's always open, but you're like, tight end's probably
Yeah, exactly. He's not always open, but you might want to check him. Don't make him your check down, but maybe your second check.
You're just a little less declarative about how open the tight end is. But I did some deep dive yesterday here at SEC Media's Preston to try to find out maybe what the role for these tight ends will be, especially under new offensive coordinator Mike Shula. Now, Josh Simon had some breakout seasons the last couple of years with the Gamecocks under Dowell Loggins as the offensive coordinator. So I went back and looked at all of the teams that Mike Shula was the offensive coordinator for, right? And of course, all that is in the NFL. So thankfully, this information easily available to me because the NFL has been giving out target data for a while. So I went back and looked. He was the offensive coordinator with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from 96 to 99. That first year, Preston Thorne, tight ends accounted for over 21% of the team's targets, 19% of the team's yards. That number went down every year he was in Tampa. So the most tight end happy he was the first year. And reminder, Trent Dilfer was his quarterback at Tampa Bay. And then in 99, Sean King played about a quarter of the season as well. Then fast forward to his next offensive coordinator job. He's coaching he's the offensive coordinator for the Panthers. He's got some fella named Cam Newton. He also has some fella named Greg Olsen, who's a really good tight end. So remember that total I told you earlier, where in that first year it was 21% of the targets, and it went down all the way to 10% in 1999. That number in his first year with Carolina went up to 24% of the targets going to tight ends and accounting for 24.5% of the yards. But instead of doing what he did in Tampa Bay, Preston Thorne, that number went up gradually each year until 2017, going as high as 30.5% of the targets went to tight ends in 2015. Remind you, that was the year that Cam Newton won the MVP and the Carolina Panthers went to the Super Bowl. And tight ends also accounted for 32% of the team's yards. Now, Greg Olsen got hurt the next year, so that number went down dramatically. And then, of course, in his 2 seasons as the offensive coordinator of the Giants, Eli Manning at quarterback, they never eclipsed more than 20% of a target share for tight ends. Given what we know about Lenora Sellers' skill set and about a couple of the tight ends on the roster, they did add Jordan Dingle from Kentucky. But you bring back Michael Smith, you bring back Brady Hunt. Preston Thorne, given that information on Mike Shula's history, how do you expect the tight ends to be used this year?
Well, it's interesting. You laid out what he did previously in the pros based on what's going to happen here. Looking at the room, I like to look at all the rooms as having different pieces. And we talked about the tight ends yesterday. Yesterday, you talked about the fella from Vanderbilt. What was his name?
Eli Stowers.
You talk about Eli Stowers. I don't think we have an Eli Stowers in the room yet, but maybe we have a couple guys who can build up to that process. So Michael Smith is going to be more of your pass-catching tight end, maybe your flex guy, your very highly skilled guy. Brady Hunt seems to be maybe your inline blocker or some of those types of things. And when you look at those two types of dudes, you can put together your complete tight end. I'm not sure what the rest of the room looks like, though.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too. Like, if you can find that reliable pass catcher, a tight end, I think, can be so valuable for a quarterback with Lenoris' skill set. And for various reasons, too. You can run some 12 personnel where you have, maybe an extra blocker in there and a safety valve for if the play breaks down. Because that's what, like, Lenoris' best skill set, right, is he has, like, this innate ability to understand when the pocket breaks down and when he has to bail out of there and make a play. And if you have a tight end, what Josh Simon was so frequently last year, and I refer to him as this a lot, and it became a bit on the postgame show with myself and Jay Phillips, he was the easy button, right? Offense is in trouble, play breaks down. You maybe not have a clear running lane to get the first down or get to the sticks, but you have Josh Simon. Josh Simon's one of those, he may not always be open, but he's probably open. And that helped the offense so much last year, too, especially later on in the season when LaNorris commanded more attention. Teams have to sell out to make sure that he's not gashing them for 20 yards on the ground. And when you do that, you got to lose attention on something else. And it seemed like more often than not last year, teams just lost contain on Josh Simon.
So if you're looking at this year's room, do you think does Michael Smith fulfill the role of easy button? Do we put that red button on his, instead of a captaincy, do we just put that red button on his chest right there?
Yes, that red Staples easy button.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And if you think about it, look at his size. He's probably the most built to be that type of tight end, right? I think Jordan Dingle and Brady Hunt are maybe your more seasoned blockers. You break down some of the blocking grades from Pro Football Focus. Again, you take them with a grain of salt, but I trust those people's eyes for the most part. And Michael Smith is clearly evaluated as the lesser of a blocker considered or compared to those two others. And Michael Smith's 6'6", so he's got a big catch radius. He's a bigger body. He's a bigger target. In terms of just the mold of tight end that is perfect for that type of role, maybe like a Jimmy Graham type role.
Yep.
Not saying he's going to lead the league in receptions or whatever. But
you're very familiar with Jimmy.
Oh, I thoroughly enjoyed my time watching Jimmy Graham.
But to be clear, in all your years of watching Jimmy Graham wasn't going to line up and not necessarily maul somebody at the end of on the end of the line blocking, right?
I don't think he would have mauled somebody if the game required it to win. That was not his thing at all. That was absolutely not. My man, I think he was borderline allergic to blocking. It was not his thing. But they had other tight ends on the roster for that, right? And they would run a lot of 12 personnel. And they would be able to utilize that tight end and also utilize what you had in the freakish athletic ability of Jimmy Graham. Maybe Michael Smith can play that role as a very nice safety valve, pair him with Brady Hunt or Jordan Dingle, who did a ton of blocking at Kentucky. If you're going to be a tight end for Mark Stoops, you have to be able to block. I think Mark Stoops has a restraining order maybe against those type of tight ends that don't want to block. But I think the addition of Jordan Dingle, having him, because he can catch passes as well, and Michael Smith in the same room, probably beneficial. I think Mike Shula is going to utilize that.
Well, with Norris working on his downfield, working on staying in the pocket, working on being able to see the field, you want to be able to utilize somebody that can sort of be that safety valve or / easy button.
And now there's some numbers that might indicate whether or not Michael Smith can be the easy button. And we're on quite the streak of the analytics matching what Preston sees with his eyes. But is this applicable with what's going on in the Gamecocks tight end room? We'll find out next on Old Man versus Analytics on the early game.
Preston here for Cato's Power Equipment. Cato's Power Equipment has been family owned and serving the Midlands since 1983. That's over 40 years. And third generation owner Ben Cato provides top-notch service, great deals, and the mom and pop values that you love. Ben is determined to raise the standard of sales, service, and retail. At Cato's, they are proud to offer a wide selection of new and pre-owned mowers, tractors, and more. So if you're ready to invest in something new, the friendly team is there to make the process easy, help you choose the right equipment, find financing options, and keep your gear running strong with expert service and parts. Whether you're a weekend warrior or a seasoned landscaping pro, Cato's has you covered. They have a huge selection of new and pre-owned mowers, powerful tractors, and all the gear you need. So swing by Cato's Power Equipment today or call them at 803-254-3711. That's 803-254-3711.
No accidents to report. A good Tuesday morning on the highways so far. 92 will be our high today with a chance for an afternoon or evening pop up shower. 92 tomorrow, much of the same, as well as Thursday. This pattern we will be in, honestly, for the foreseeable future, let's just be honest. We'll be in the mid 90s by the end of the week, about 96 over the weekend. So right now it's 75 on 1075 the game.
SEC Media Day coverage here for the game, brought to you by Game Day Men's Health. Game Day Men's Health Columbia offers convenient, expert back care for all men looking to feel and perform their best. Give them a call, 803-919-7886 to book an appointment. That was a performance-based read there, Preston Thorne, and we're looking for a big performance season from some of these tight ends to fill the big shoes left by Josh Simon, who we consider to be the easy button here. I think we've bestowed that easy button tab onto Michael Smith, which is the perfect lead-in for old man versus analytics. Preston, with Michael Smith last year, his route running grade on passes from 0 to 9 yards on Pro Football Focus was an astounding 91.3. They loved how he ran routes and got himself open in that short passing game. And 43% rather, of his targets were in that range, and over a third of his yards last year came on those routes. Is it safe to say that he's best suited as that safety valve on 3rd and 6 or less?
Okay, this is where I have beef with PFF, because how do they know how good he ran his routes? How do they know? Or what are they trying to figure out there? This is where I have a little bit of issues with them as far as on their grading, because I'm not sure how they know. But with that being said, he was available and he did make plays in those situations. So I will give him that, but those numbers don't quite get me the easy button land yet. So I'm not that those numbers don't say easy button. I'm going to dismiss those analytics a little bit.
And from my understanding, because I do have a friend who works for PFF, where he's went through training not too long ago, and he's kind of filling me in on what they look for. He said that grade is mostly in terms of data, in terms of how open you are, but also, again, not telling the whole picture, because the defense can have a coverage that just allows him to be open. So it's a more context needed. I would say.
Again, what is open? Because open for, say, some of these, open for, let's go back to the receivers we talked about yesterday. Open for Alshon Jeffrey is not the same as open for other receivers, right? Because he's open,
right?
The bank's always open for Alshon. So I don't know how we can necessarily gauge what does open mean.
Yeah, maybe I guess just for like an average receiver. I don't know. That part is the differentiation there. But they like Michael Smith in terms of his ability to get open from 0 to 9 yards. And I guess if you're going to be the easy button, that's probably the range to do it, considering that's a higher, I guess, percentage or higher likely of a play than, say, like 10 to 19 yards or 20 plus yards down the field.
Right.
Personally, if Michael Smith can be that, then I feel really good about this offense next year.
Yeah, but, well, as we said, Lenorris is going to need somebody to dump the ball off to, or to be able to go to consistently when when the teams are blitzing him, he has one-on-one moves. There's a lot of reasons why the tight end is a huge part of any successful offense.
And old man versus analytics, Kentucky transfer Jordan Dingle had the highest pass block grade of any of South Carolina's returning tight ends. That was at 63. And per Pro Football Focus, he even lined up at tackle for 3 different snaps last year at Kentucky. 62% of those snaps were blocking snaps. Is that going to be his primary job with the Gamecocks, is to be the blocking tight end?
Well, I think that's going to come down to him and Brady Hunt. They're going to have to figure out who gets majority of those snaps. Because, Elijah, you keep throwing out one of my favorite football terms, and I feel like we haven't done it proper justice. You keep throwing out my phrase, 12 personnel.
Oh, I love 12
what a beautiful sound. 12 personnel. What is 12 personnel, you may ask? And some of you may be asking, you may have heard this, you may not have heard this. The number on the first is how many running backs there are. That's the 1. The 2 is the number of tight ends. Hence, you get the number 12. And so whenever you hear that 12 personnel, that means you have 2 tight ends coming on the field. That makes the throw it to the tight end guy even more happy when you have 12 personnel. So like you said it a couple times. I'd be remiss if I let you say it again without mentioning that it is my favorite formation in football. It is the formation of the gods, in any offense that runs 12 personnel is there for me. So you may want to slide that 12 personnel into our NFL conversation, because if a team runs a lot of 12, I am there for it, Elijah.
Oh, this is a tease for 7:30. Preston Thorne, the tiers for your to find out your favorite football team today are based on how frequently teams used 12 personnel last year.
That's my favorite.
I found the data. I found data yesterday that broke down the percentage of plays that NFL teams had in 12 personnel. And I said, this is it. This is the only way to do it. I was going to do just like tight end targets, but I saw 12 personnel and said I was able to find that data. And I was like,
that's why you're the man, Elijah.
I need to go no further. So this actually, you might have to put more weight into that tier when we get into that at 7:30. So make sure that you're listening for that to hear the happiest you may ever hear Preston Thorne is when we talk more 12 personnel. And if the Gamecocks are going to do a lot of that, obviously you're going to have to figure out the best combinations of Michael Smith, Brady Hunt, Jordan Dingle, unless you want to go 13 personnel, which Arthur Smith is all ears. But between Smith, Hunt, and Dingle, they combined for only 6 targets past 10 yards in the air last year. Josh Simon had 13 himself. Don't bank on them to do much downfield stretching in this offense.
Now, to me, okay, so I remember Michael Smith's recruitment, and he was recruited as the athlete tight end. And I would assume that the athlete tight end is going to have to try and stretch the field at some point if you want to take advantage of some mismatches on linebackers or overhang guys or whoever the case may be. So I think that's going to have to change a little bit in this offense for him to ultimately be the easy button, because if you're the easy button, that means you sort of can work people at every level of the passing game.
Yes, and really last year too, part of when looking at a lot of the numbers from Michael Smith yesterday and preparing this, I thought in the clear context of he was still playing behind Josh Simon. That was still Josh Simon's role. And just from the eye test, right, you look at how Michael Smith plays, you look at his body type, and you look at some of the plays that he did make last year, and that tells me that's the role he's going to play. We just haven't seen him do it a lot on the field in terms of being the field stretcher of a tight end, or that tight end that is doing, to keep alluding to Jimmy Graham, the guy who killed teams down the seams, right in the middle of the field. I think he still can be that, because I think he has the tools athletically to be able to do that. And given what we know about Mike Shula, if Mike Shula feels like he does, then we'll probably see him used that way a lot. I think that's going to be the big thing to watch in terms of just the utilization of tight ends. But last one here, Preston. Brady Hunt caught only 2 passes last year, and both were for first downs. Can we expect him to be a major factor in the passing game? Now, context, last year Brady Hunt did battle through a ton of injury, but both passes he caught last year were at least chain movers.
This is what we needed from Brady Hunt. You ideally want a guy who can do a little bit of both. I might have to push on this because I think that's yet to be determined, because he has to decide. We have to see how he has come back from the injuries. Even though I believe that was Missouri last year. Did he have that was Missouri? Yep. He had a huge catch, right?
A very big
I
first
mean,
down catch.
if he didn't catch any other first downs all year, that one against Missouri was majorly important. So we'll see how if he can fulfill that role.
We'll see if we can fulfill that role, but we know of plenty of Gamecock tight ends historically who have fulfilled those roles perfectly. And coming up next on the early game, it's first down for your life, tight end edition. That's next. Our coverage here at SEC Media Days at the game brought to you by Lexington Discount Homes. Lexington Discount Homes, one of South Carolina's leading retailers of manufactured homes. Go to LexingtonDiscountHomes.com to find out more. Yesterday, we did First Down for Your Life with receivers. Now, for those who may not be familiar with our First Down for Your Life exercise, it's 4th and 15. You have to connect on a pass or a first down to save your life. You're only allowed to target one player to pass the ball to. In this instance, it has to be a former Gamecock tight end. If the tight end's always open, we have to pick our tight end that is the most always open. And I have a feel we already have one submission, Preston Thorne.
I'm listening.
Our leadoff on the Firehouse Subs text line. This is from Ethan. It says easily Jared Cook.
I think that's a very safe, solid answer. However, when you say the name Jared Cook, despite all the things that he did, there are going to be some folks who go back to one play where he did not get the first down for his life. So I say that because how somebody can have such a great career and oftentimes in some people's minds really only remembered for one specific play. I could be wrong. Let me know, folks, if I'm wrong on that.
See, the memory of it is not seared into my mind as much because I'm mostly, when I think Jared Cook, I think of a lot of what he did in the NFL.
Yes, he was with the Titans for a strong amount of time, correct?
Yeah, started his career with the Titans.
That's correct.
Played with the Rams, and then he was a New Orleans Saint for a couple of years. I have finally forgiven him for the fumble in the 2020 NFC divisional round that cost them a chance to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Was bitter, but I've forgiven him. But to quote Jeff Fisher, Cookie, that's a great player. I can't do it as well. We had Chase McCabe on yesterday. He does a killer Jeff Fisher impersonation. But the Cookie, he's a great player, was a common refrain whenever he was playing in Tennessee for the Titans for a while.
Yeah, so. Jared was awesome, man. And he's one of those guys who was the hybrid. If I'm looking at his numbers here, 6'5", 250. He was huge, right? And it was the guy that made himself a large target, could run the seam, did all the things that you would love out of that position. So if you pick Jared Cook, you wouldn't be wrong.
Yes, and that's the thing. I love tight ends that run the seam really well, especially if you have a quarterback who can make that pass in tight windows. And because he was so sure-handed, if you throw the ball past 15 yards beyond the sticks, I feel like he's catching it, especially on that specific part of the field. My hypothesis too with this, Preston, is I think we're getting a lot of Hayden Hurst as well. And right now, I think we do have one Hayden Hurst on the YouTube stream.
You would not be wrong. I would tell you, the first time I saw Hayden Hurst in person, it was one of those, who's that type of situation. I went out to practice. There was a bunch of Division I SEC athletes running around who were recruited by Will Muschamp, and this one dude with a beautiful head of red hair. I was like, that guy is the pro. I don't know what else is going on out here, but that's the dude.
Yeah, his athletic ability is one thing, but to be a Pantene All-American is what I'll call the fellas with great long locks.
Also,
I like
at the very
part of that fraternity.
Also at the very top of nicknames, Garnet Thor. What a great nickname!
Oh man, see, I wasn't here for the
you missed
I wasn't
that.
as locked in with the nickname.
So that was his local nickname, Garnet Thor, and that's a solid name.
Thor. Yeah. Oh, that's sick.
Yeah,
that's sick. See, if Jared Cook doesn't have a nickname like that, then I might have to lean Hayden Hurst in this. I might have to change my own vote because I went into this writing down Jared Cook, but Garnet Thor alone is enough to make me have to reconsider any type of vote here. Maybe I have to read some literature on the subject.
Yeah, it's a great nickname, and it's gonna be tough to come by a better name than that. But yeah, the first time I saw Hayden Hurst on the field, I said, "Oh, that dude's a pro." I didn't know anything about him. I didn't know his story, which is he has an amazing story. Whether it was getting drafted, coming back through, battling mental health issues, an amazing story. I didn't know anything about that. I just saw the dude on the field and said, "Oh, he's the pro out here."
I love those who don't go with the common pick, right?
Okay.
Marshall says won't be the common pick, but Justice Cunningham was reliable.
Listen, we're talking about third down for you. We're talking about fourth down for your life, and you don't want to put your life in somebody's hands that's not reliable. Justice Cunningham is a great pick. Great name, also solid, solid name.
Justice Cunningham. Oh, I love that. And here's the thing too: when I value in tight ends, reliability. I think really when I think of the tight end position, I don't necessarily want to throw it to them 15 times a game, but I want to be able to bank on you to give me here. Well, I'm here in Atlanta, here at SEC Media Days, and Greg Sankey yesterday, right behind me, addressed the college football world. And while he didn't make a ton of headlines and it wasn't incredibly flashy, he did make sure to do some flexing. Or was it more of a diss? We discuss that next to kick off hour number 2 of the early game.
Pressing here for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. So if your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. If it's a cracked windshield, it's no problem. They'll come out to your location and they'll replace it for you, usually for free, and they work directly with the insurance to take away the headache. That's right, they'll come out to wherever you are. School, home, work, it does not matter. Absolute Glass will come out and take care of it for you. Now, if you're at home looking to increase the value of your home, you can do that by adding new windows and mirrors, and Absolute Glass will take care of that for you too. Windows, mirrors, shower enclosures. Say it all the time. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at absoluteglassinc.com. That's online at absoluteglassinc.com.
One accident to make you aware of, and that's Percival Road near Forest Drive, kind of at Eagle Park Drive. So, again, that's Percival Road near Forest Drive. Also going on this week through the 20th, Operation Southern Slowdown, and a lot of southern states just really enforcing that, making sure you're not driving aggressively, not speeding. So, just be mindful of that really all the time, but definitely through the 20th. As far as your forecast goes, yep, going to be 92 today and tomorrow, 94 on Thursday, 95 on Friday. We kind of keep that humidity and those opportunities for pop up showers and thunderstorms for the remainder of this week. It's 75 currently to start your Tuesday morning on 1075 The Game.
Our coverage here at SEC Media Days in Atlanta at the College Football Hall of Fame, brought to you by CHW Cabinetry. Jen knows about them.
I do very well.
She can't confirm. Jen will tell you more later on.
I will.
She's got the lowdown. And if it's good enough for Jen Jensen, it's good enough for me.
Amen. Amen.
Personally, I think it's all you really need to know. I think that's all I need for the liner is CHW Cabinetry. If it's good for Jen Jensen, it's more than good enough for you.
I think that's perfect because I'm pretty picky.
We're going to use that. We're going to reach out to some folks, see if we can make that the tagline.
I love that. You're going to be a new ad agency.
See, I'm a natural. I just walked into it. Almost kind of the way Greg Sankey walked into the room yesterday and commanded the attention of everybody. And normally in these settings, the commissioner does the kind of the State of the Union address. But yesterday it seemed like it was, kind of just humming along. But Preston Thorne, I think we might have heard a diss track yesterday. I don't think it's necessarily ether, maybe more like takeover.
Yeah, maybe not. Well, he saying that those other conferences are not like us? Is that what he was trying to imply? He was saying, "Hey,
did.
Y'all are not us." This is what the kids. But it wasn't quite that, because when Kendrick Lamar dissed Drake, he obviously said his name.
Yes, it was direct.
Sankey did not say his name, so this would qualify. I think the kids call it as a sub. This is a sub. He subbed these other conferences. He didn't mention them by name, but he just let everybody know that I know who you're talking about. You know who I'm talking about. And more importantly, we all know what this conversation is about. So this was a sub tweet, sub diss, a sneak diss maybe, not necessarily direct.
And a lot of this was in relation to the future of the college football playoff. Jen Cut 42, he mentioned maybe the future of the playoff, his feelings on it, and a lot of the power that the SEC wields here.
Well, I would never give away how close we are to doing something in a meeting. I think Tony and I spoke probably 4 out of 5 days last week. I think Jim and I either talked on the phone or communicated 3 out of 5 days last week. So we had a different view coming out of Destin around the notion of allocations, if you will. And I think you'll probably hear that again from our coaches. The Big Ten has a different view. That's fine. We have a 12-team playoff, 5 conference champions. That could stay if we can't agree. I think there's this notion that there has to be some magic moment and something has to happen with expansion and it has to be forced. No, I think we want to use, when you're given authority, you want to be responsible in using that authority. And I think both of us are prepared to do so. And the upfront responsibility, and this may be where some of the confusion lies, is we have the ability to present a format or format ideas, gather information, see if we can all agree within that room. We don't need unanimity. And ultimately, if not, there's a level of authority granted to the Big Ten and SEC together. But there's a lot to that. It's not you just show up and pound your fist and something happens. I hope that type of narrative can be reduced. But we'll keep talking. We all talk a lot, probably too much sometimes, right?
The line there that I had circled and that I made sure to write down as soon as he said it, when I was standing there in front of him watching him yesterday, we don't need unanimity. You don't need the permission of everyone to do whatever it is. He's not mentioning that if he didn't feel that was important, right? He didn't have to say, we don't need your permission to do something as it pertains to the college football playoff. He went on later to talk about that memorandum of understanding that was signed by all the conferences that essentially surrendered a majority of the power of the college football playoff to the SEC and the Big Ten. But he made sure in that clip to allude to the fact they don't need the permission from the Big 12 and the ACC. And while he didn't have to call Brett Yormark and Jim Phillips out by name directly, I think the point was pretty well made about the power that he just reminded the entire college football world that he has.
I love this statement, and I actually wrote that exactly as you said it, because there was a little bit of I think it was a if we were doing old school English here, I think this was like a participle or maybe a clause right before that or something like that.
I can't tell you the last time I heard the word participle. I really can't. I
make sure it's
honest
not
to God
dangling.
cannot.
Jen, that might be after your own heart.
Oh, absolutely, man. Right there.
Dangling participles. Here we go. So he says this phrase right before that. He says, the phrase you said highlight, he says, but we don't need anonymity. Right before that, he said, we'd like to all agree. And this is what he's saying. He's saying, hey, we're going to get in the room. We're going to tell you how this is going to go, and hopefully you like it. But if you don't, we're going that way anyway. Come on, get in the car. It doesn't matter. Hopefully you want to go where we're going, but if you don't want to go, it does not matter. What's your options? You're going to jump out this car? Probably not. Get in the car. This is where we're going.
Yeah, I don't think you're ladybirding it by hopping out of the moving vehicle. I don't see that.
Very good.
Happening.
Very good movie. Elijah.
Great film.
Great
very,
film.
Very solid film.
And I would also like to say, by you using the word film just now, absolute snob, movie snob, because you used the word film. That's a key indicator.
A lot of that kind of just comes from my younger brother, like how I am with sports growing up and being just completely obsessive about it, and it, bleeding into what my professional career ended up being. What it ended up being, my younger brother, only 3 years younger than me, is with movies. The most film-obsessed human being on the planet.
If somebody uses the word film, you already know what type of time they're on. You know the level they are. But yeah, Greg Sankey is talking, and he's just basically. He also had this one phrase where he was essentially saying how other commissioners, he didn't call them out by name, but he's saying other commissioners using the phrases like doubling down and things of that nature. Well, and he goes on to say, well, that's a gambling phrase, and when you gamble, you have to have leverage and you have to hold all the cards, and we hold all the cards. I was like, oof, boy.
Yeah, I think he's looking at his hand right now, and he's looking at Brett Yormark and Jim Phillips and saying, you can raise as much as you want here. I'm going to call it. Right. And I might even raise you too, right. Because there is an edge there. It's almost like playing that poker hand, but if before the hand happened, you signed an agreement giving one player more power than everybody else. So this isn't, a secret too. It's not like he can go up there and say this with like a wink and a nod, knowing something that nobody else knows. Everybody knows this. And this still kind of goes back to the folly of surrendering a lot of the power to the SEC and the Big Ten. For reasons I may never fully understand, but if you're the Big 12 and the ACC, yes, I agree with their complaints about the 4 auto bid.
Wait. Elijah, you understand. You know why they did it.
Yes and no, maybe not fully. At the same time, like there's a level of self-preservation here needed, right? If you want to survive and you want to look out for the best interest of your conference, giving power to another conference and taking destiny out of your own hands probably isn't the best way to do so.
Doesn't feel like it's the best way, but when that other conference says, "Hey, listen, you see those direct deposits that we're going to put in your account at the end of the year, follow us."
Yeah. In a way, but at the same time, it's a principle thing for me that if you are in the business of self-preservation, your best friend is you.
Oh, look at
ability.
Look at Elijah with all his principles. Isn't that cute?
It is. And this is not meant to be in the world of college football or college athletics by any means. But nonetheless, they surrendered that, and they're at their mercy now. And I totally understand like the complaint from the ACC and the Big 12 that, giving 2 different conferences 4 auto bids each to go into the college football playoff in a 16-team field kind of just runs counter to what we believe in as sports fans and a sporting public. It's kind of antithetical to what we do in sport, but at the same time, you were part of the reason why that is a possibility. Now, thankfully, Greg Sankey did discuss not being necessarily in favor of that. And if anything, he actually was more in favor of staying at 12, which was really kind of surprising to me to hear. I mean, in the world of college athletics that we live in, where it's, gobble, 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 give me all the money, every single cent, gobble, 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 that he's willing to be like, yeah, we'll be fine with 12 because they know they're going to get more years than not.
Yeah, and that was interesting. He was basically saying to everybody, hold on a second, relax. I'm not sure that's necessarily going to happen as long as we can have our way. And again, as he stated, we don't need unanimity. That's a tough word to get out.
Dude, I tried to say it fast because I knew I was going to butcher it.
Unanimity.
And I'm really hoping nobody noticed how much I tried to
tough
run
one.
through that. You should see how I tried to spell it.
Jen, you want to give it a shot?
Unanimity.
Yeah, that's it.
Nailed it. See, you
good
made
job.
it a lot easier.
It's a tough one. Unanimity. It's a tough one. But yes, he basically said we don't need it. Y'all, we're all gonna agree that this is the way that we're going. And he didn't necessarily say that they're going towards 16. It could happen, but not necessarily.
Yes, and I do love like the hold the phone. We haven't agreed on anything yet because I feel like everybody's kind of operated under the assumption that this will be the last year of a 12-team playoff. And you can rightfully assume that. Like, that's not a stretch, right? Everybody knows exactly where this is going. It's the same way everybody can automatically assume that the next step in basketball is expanding the NCAA tournaments to 72 or 76, even though we've gotten a miracle and they've been holding off and it's not a done deal. Somehow they have avoided that worst case scenario from happening. I still don't have the full confidence that it's going to stop because of the money thing, because you just got done agreeing to a landmark settlement that's going to change the trajectory of college athletics forever, and you're going to need the money. And I think that's what makes what Greg Sankey said yesterday a little more powerful. Like, you need it. You need that money, but there's nothing you can do about it in terms of changing playoff format, because we have the power and we're going to act within the best interest of the sport. And you just kind of have to trust us that we'll act in your best interest too, even though we know that's not the case.
Right.
And you mentioned that there was at least some deal of responsibility that they had for the greater good. And while I appreciate saying that publicly, I don't know if I necessarily agree with the notion that that's going to happen.
Yeah, and that, as you stated, going back to the idea of the ACC and the Big 12 and those other conferences, do you trust them to do the best interest for you? Probably not. You're just going to have to assume that when they do well, that hopefully you do well and also.
Yeah, you're banking on that.
That's what
Human nature would
that's
tell
the
us
hope.
that. Yes, and that's maybe your best chance of not just survival, but the ability to thrive, because you put your fate in somebody else's hands, you're going to have to bank on them doing what's best for you, even if human nature is kind of runs counter to that entire principle right there as well. We'll go ahead and take a break here a little earlier than usual, because yesterday I got a text from one Preston Thorne calling for an ISO on Lane Kiffin. So we're clearing out. We're getting Preston the ball on the wing, 17 feet from the basket, and he's going to go full Joe Johnson on the Ole Miss head football coach next here on the early game.
Percival Road near Forest Drive, only accident that we're reporting right now. And forecast wise, 92 today and tomorrow. Those pop up showers and humidity, part of the summer package, that will be continuing today and tomorrow, and really the remainder of the week. By the end of the week, we'll be in about the mid 90s. But we're starting off the morning with a mix of clouds and sun, more clouds than sun right now. 75 on 1075 The Game.
Here at SEC Media Days, brought to you by Lawyer Lisa. Need to talk estate planning, elder law, elder care, or probate? Call Lawyer Lisa, 803-563-5163, or go to lawyerlisa.com. All right, this is where I throw the lob to Preston Thorne. Whichever basketball analogy you want to use. I'm throwing him a lob for an alley-oop, or clearing it out for him to go Joe Johnson, ISO Joe on Lane Kiffin. So Preston Thorne, I know you have been waiting on this moment all morning to be able to react to some of what Lane Kiffin had to say yesterday.
Well, we were going to wait to see what Lane had to say on the podium. We knew that we was going to get something from Lane. We knew Lane was going to give us some words that we were going to come from, but there were two particular things, Elijah, that just irked my nerves. And sometimes Lane does this. Sometimes he's a little ornery. Sometimes he doesn't necessarily know whether he wants to be the guy who gets the attention, but then he says there's too much attention. He likes to play coy. So I'm going to start off with this. I'm going to start off with a compliment. Lane had on a good suit yesterday. Gray,
He did.
chalk stripe,
Admit it.
not pinstripe, chalk stripe. A little bit of a difference. Obviously, pinstripe is thinner, chalk stripe is a little wider. Gray, chalk stripe suit, open collar, had a nice collar to it, had a good pocket square in there. He looked phenomenal. Hair was done. He looked great. So, Lane, you look
tan. Very tan.
Very tan. He looked great. So, I'm going to give you that.
Did he get a tan on the golf course?
That's a good question. It's a good question. I don't know if he got his hand on his golf course, because then he said this. Jen, can we go with number 37, please?
Well, someone said that coming in here to me. I like Coach Freeze. So I think they think that was something to do with, like, I was fishing and it was golfing. That really wasn't that. I have a thing with him going back a few years ago, and he, like, posted a picture, like, in response to me of, like, some 2-pound bass or something like that. So I've kind of always posted bigger fish pictures back towards him. So that had nothing to do with his golf game, which sounds like he's doing amazing at that. So that's great for him.
This is what we like to call, not I like to call, the definition for this term is gaslighting. Lane, you do a great job of trying to make us believe that you're not doing what you're doing. But Lane, we know what you're doing. We know you are a troll. And sometimes you try to act like, oh, what? Me? Did I do that? I did. Who would have thought that was me? Lane, stop it. Your goal on social media is to be a troll, and it's fine. But don't get up there and, I guess, continue the bit of being a troll. Or maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just a masterful act of being a troll, and he doesn't stop. Elijah, am I off base on this?
I think it's become a bit.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
it's maybe, if I'm cutting up in percentages, I think it's 35% who Lane Kiffin is to his core. Not completely, but 35%. 65% really leaning into the bit. And I think the term, or how do you end that? It's going really well for him.
Mhm.
I think that was that's Lane playing into it a little bit. He saw an opportunity, and he's not going to pass that up.
He reminds me of the Denny Hamlins of the world. Denny Hamlin in NASCAR leans into that persona. I don't know that that's totally him. I think it is him to a point. But I think Lane and Denny could probably have a nice conversation, have a good dinner, because I think they kind of live in that same world.
So he just lives in the world of am I trolling? Is this real? I don't know. What did you know? Do you think I am? I don't know.
Yeah.
But he's consistently trying to make you believe that he's not doing anything, even though we know he's doing a thing, right?
100%.
Lane, you're doing a thing. And so first he tried to gaslight us into thinking that he's not trying to troll Hugh Freeze, which we know he is. That's the first one. So I'm like, all right, Lane, that's fine. But then this is the one that really got my attention. Jen, can we get 39 here, please?
Well, I think that's what's being attempted. Doesn't seem like that's working very well. So, yeah, I mean, I'm stating the obvious. That was the intention of what was going on, because there were so much complaints when NIL started and everything about, okay, everybody's got different advantages and different payrolls, and we saw those a couple of years ago, and I was up here at one of these joking about there should be a luxury tax, because of A&M spending or whatever it was, so then that was supposed to be being fixed, and now it's not. So again, we've tried to follow these guidelines because that's what we were told we needed to do, and I'm not calling anybody out. I'm not even saying they're wrong for doing it, if the system isn't solid enough to prevent that, then we really don't have a system. And then so you're not operating in a salary cap. So
his voice reminds me of Saban. It's not quite as deep.
He's trying to get there.
Yeah, he sounds a little bit like Saban. I was kind of flashing back for a moment.
This is what we like to call, Elijah, this is what we like to call dry snitching.
Ooh, dry snitching. Term of the day.
Term of the day, the word of the day. We had gaslighting, and now we have, from the same people who brought you gaslighting, we're going to bring you dry snitching. And when you dry snitch on somebody, it's when you tell people that things are happening, but you don't tell them who is doing it. And so you just allude to the idea that this is happening. You just say that some of these things are happening. But if they are important enough for you to say them, Lane, then you might as well go out and say who is doing it. But no, you don't want to do that because you're all protecting the brotherhood, the fraternity, or whatever we calling it. So you can't go out there and say, well, some of us are following the rules, but we know obviously everybody else is. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but that's called dry snitching, Lane. Either it's a problem or it's not. And these coaches like to do this all the time. They like to get out here and state with their righteous indignation about the system and how other coaches are doing the wrong things and other guys are doing this. But nobody ever wants to say who it is, and nobody ever wants to admit that they're actually doing it too. And this is one of the things that, of all the issues in college sports, there's a lot happening. I really dislike when coaches get out there and try and be more righteous than they actually are.
Yes, absolutely. And you know what word I wrote down when listening to that? We from the hits that brought to us, by the makers of dry snitching and gaslighting, I wrote projecting.
Ooh,
I
good
think
word.
There's some projection going on here too, because look, let's think about history here, right? Who is the person who has benefited maybe the most from the modern college athletics? Ole Miss football and Lane Kiffin. This is a team that is put together by the transfer portal year in, year out. Ole Miss as a school, before Lane Kiffin got there, one of the reasons why Hugh Freeze was no longer the coach is because they had an epic bagman war with Mississippi State. You think Laramie Tunsil and Robert Kimdichie just came to Ole Miss because they just wanted to play for the University of Mississippi? No. Well documented. SB Nation did a documentary series a long time ago. Stephen Godfrey did a fantastic job with it about what it took to get Laramie Tunsil and Robert Kimdichie onto campus. And it wasn't because they had a great pitch about the biology department. That's not how it goes. If there's any school in college football that is very familiar with the seedy underbelly of college football, it's Ole Miss. And you think Lane Kiffin got there and heard from the boosters, the people who helped make that happen, and said, you know what, we're not doing that? Absolutely not.
Right.
Now that the money is above the table, absolutely not.
Right. Lane gets to Ole Miss. Lane gets into town and says, you know what, guys, we're not doing that anymore. We're going to play everything straight by the books. It's going to be fair and square. And you know what? By golly, The NCAA says we can only spend 20.5 million, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna follow the letter of the law.
Not a cent more.
Exactly. Come on, Lane. We don't believe that. And so the idea that these coaches were begging for these rules, all we just need is some rules. We need guidelines. We've always had rules and guidelines, and coaches have always broken them, and they will continue to break them because we all want to win. It's the SEC. What's the tagline for the SEC, Elijah?
It just
Means more. And just meaning more means, hey, I'm willing to play in these gray areas often. Sometimes the rules don't mean a lot in the SEC. And so I just don't like the coaches who have begged for rules, saying that they need structure, acting like, oh, now that we get rules and structure, we're going to follow them. No, they're not. They're going to continue to try and move and get themselves around the rules. So Lane, relax with that. You don't need to dry snitch on it. We're all here. We all know what's applied. We all are here for not following the rules. That's why we're in SEC football. We get it. You don't need to make us feel better about ourselves. We have no problem with this.
One of the terms of the day, gaslighting. Preston believes Lane Kiffin, and I believe as well, Lane Kiffin did a little gaslighting yesterday. I'm trying not to gaslight Preston Thorne into becoming an Atlanta Falcons fan because the hunt for his NFL fandom continues. And since we're talking tight end, how much of a factor is tight end usage in 12 personnel in all of this? We'll find out next when the early game continues. Now, doing anything for 30 years can be tough. Doing things well for 30 years, even harder. I've been just doing life for right at 30 years, and some can describe it best as just good enough. But Midstate Roofing has been leading for 30 years in the roofing and waterproofing industry. Their history in professionals at Midstate Roofing provide the best and proper advice, service, and results for the needs of your specific facility, whether it be high-rise or hospitals, manufacturing to industrial. Midstate Roofing designs and installs bonded systems with a protective guarantee that will keep your operation dry and running long into the future, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And, of course, they always want me to remind you to protect the roof with a maintenance contract. Give them a call today, 803-356-1919, or online at midstateroofing.com. Midstateroofing.com. You can speak to an on-call technician after hours or a Midstate Roofing member during hours. Again, 803-356-1919. If you have a leak, let Midstate Roofing take a peek.
Percival Road near Forest Drive, we have a report of an accident there. Also reporting Percival near Screaming Eagle Road. So a couple incidences that you might want to be mindful of. And the summertime pattern is here. 92 today and tomorrow, 94 on Thursday, 95 on Friday, and each and every afternoon we just don't know. We could see a pop-up storm, a little bit of humidity, a lot of humidity. But that is pretty much what's in the forecast for all week, those chances for isolated showers or storms popping up. So we just have to be mindful. 75 currently on 107.5 The Game.
Day coverage brought to you by Lexington Discount Homes. Lexington Discount Homes, one of South Carolina's leading retailers of manufactured homes. Go to LexingtonDiscountHomes.com to find out more. I don't think we need to go to LexingtonDiscountHomes.com to find out the new home of Preston Thorne's NFL fandom, because we're doing a great job of figuring that out on our own with our own tiered system. And today might be the best reflection as to who Preston was going to gravitate with his football-loving soul.
Okay, so here's the thing. If you listen to the show at all, you know I'm defense first. I love defensive line. I love a low-scoring game. And so essentially you can give me whatever offense you want to. But if you do give me an offense, and that offense does run a lot of 12 personnel, you got me. So This is my type of thing. This is why I'm really interested to hear this, and I'm very nervous, actually.
You're nervous because you think you might pick the Atlanta Falcons.
Well, I do know they have a solid tight end. They have some things that are going on down there. So I am cautiously optimistic here, but I'm not. I don't know where this is going.
Spoiler alert, I don't think you have to worry about it.
Okay.
Unless
No.
I could be wrong.
No.
But on a scale of 1 to 8, your preference for teams that use 12 personnel. Now in these tiers, the higher the tier you choose, the higher the percentage this team deploys 12 personnel, which is 1 running back, 2 tight ends.
Well, before I give you my answer, I want to make sure you understand that my favorite singular play in NFL history is the Indianapolis Colts circa early 2000s, Peyton Manning, play action to Edgerrin James, roll out, throw it down the seam to either Dallas Clark or you hit Marvin Harrison over the top. That's my favorite archetype of a play. So I just need to make sure that is stated. I will watch that play over and over and over, and they used to run it all the time.
To perfection.
That's my favorite thing. That being said, if I could get a 9 on this, I'll take it. So give me an 8.
All right. Preston elects to take the 8. And in tier 8, we have the Las Vegas Raiders, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Detroit Lions, and the Houston Texans. Now, they're not in this tier, but I think we can put them in like half the team in this tier, because with the Detroit Lions, offensive coordinated by Ben Johnson last year, now the head coach for Jen Jensen's Chicago Bears. That is a selling point for the Chicago Bears if you're Jen.
Okay, so that might be something that could sell me on the Bears. Ben Johnson, Big 12 personnel guy. Okay.
Master of 12 personnel. And he had 2. Well, Sam Laporta, I think, is a fantastic tight end. But having 2 really good tight ends last year helped that offense out a lot. And they ran the ball a lot.
Okay.
Now, I don't know what the Lions offense will look like this year, but I can imagine Dan Campbell, as a former tight end himself, signs off on a lot of 12 personnel. He will never veto a 12 personnel package.
Dan wants more 12. So check this out, Elijah. Because the Raiders have a new coach and a new OC, so can we take them out of contention and maybe slide another team up just randomly, not randomly, but maybe from the top team from tier 7, just to give us another option?
Yes, we absolutely can. So the top team in tier 7, the Baltimore Ravens.
Ooh, okay. I'm hearing a lot of winners here, actually, because you said the Lions, the Chiefs, the Ravens. All of those are double-digit win teams. So I don't know if this is causation or correlation, or however you want to position it. But I feel like if you use a lot of 12, you win a lot of ball games. Am I correct?
I would say so. If you have the ability to run a lot of 12 personnel and you have a really good running game, I think the biggest common denominator here is like the Ravens having the best running game in football, because you have a quarterback who is one of the fastest human beings on planet Earth, in Derrick Henry, who is maybe the most untackleable human beings on planet Earth. Oh, yeah, and they have 2 reliable tight ends with Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely that you have endless possibilities to do offense out of. That wins them a lot of games. Now, unfortunately, in tier 7 as well, the Eagles are there too. So
there we go.
But the Patriots and Saints also in there, and their offenses were butt last year.
Well, we could
straight up.
We could eliminate. There's also teams.
Eliminate them.
There's also teams that go 12 personnel because they don't have any wide receivers, and they're like, if we throw some more tight ends on the field, something will happen. I would imagine. I'd imagine that's the Patriots and the Saints strategy for that. Again, I have to recuse myself from picking the Ravens. I think that's probably going to be unfair because of Travell Wharton, him being the offensive line coach there. I'm not going to pick them. I'll be rooting for them regardless. So we'll set them aside.
I gave them a half. I have the Ravens as 1.5 categories.
Yeah. I just have to set them aside because, again, if I were given the choice, obviously I would cheer for my friend. But we're putting that to the side. You know, we always want them to do well, and it's really cool that Travell Wharton is the O-line coach for the Ravens, who had the best offensive running attack. That's really awesome. All right, so we do have gathered some information. What I've gathered from this is if you run a lot of 12 personnel, you win a lot of football games. That's my big takeaway. That might be my winner. That might be my winner for the end of the show.
That could be the winner?
Yeah, that might be. 12 personnel is the winner.
Would you like to know the percentage of plays that these teams ran 12 personnel? If you had to guess, let's say like do we want to use the Raiders as an example because they ran the highest percentage? But let's just use Chiefs and Lions.
Well, here's the deal: the Raiders, I imagine, will be going back to running more personnel because they have the cyborg as their guy, who we saw here.
The boogeyman from Boise, yes.
Yeah, we saw him, and that's not a lot of fun. I believe that did he break the rookie record for receptions from tight end last year? Is that correct?
He did. Yep, which I think was previously held by Kyle Pitts, maybe. I think Pitts had, but he didn't have a ton of yards. Bowers definitely broke that in catches and yards.
Yeah, so I mean, Brock Bowers is nasty, and he was nasty when he was here. He was nasty. He's one of those guys again that when I saw him walk into our stadium as a freshman, it was lights out. I knew he was going to be a pro. So I could understand why the Raiders would do that as to get him on the field. So the Raiders run a lot. Who else runs a lot?
So in terms of the top 5 here: Raiders, Chiefs, Lions, Texans, Ravens, in that order. And then round out the top 10 with Patriots, Saints, Eagles, Cardinals, Bengals. And then if you want the teams that run the 5 fewest 12 personnel, that goes 28 the Bills, 29 the Cowboys, 30 the Atlanta Falcons, which is why I didn't think that would end up being an option today. 31 the 49ers, 32, surprisingly, the Los Angeles Chargers.
So what you're saying is, if and when I have to come down to pick, if I could maybe eliminate the Falcons for some particular reason, I could just say, hey, some things are non-negotiable in this relationship. And if you don't run 12 personnel, maybe we just can't be together. That could be a thing.
The running gag of you picking the Falcons unintentionally might end because I think you have found your escape hatch.
Okay. All right.
You have found the non-negotiable.
Okay. All right. This is good.
So honestly, all of these metrics, I'm kind of relieved that Taylor Swift has not entered any of this.
So I don't foresee that.
Okay. I'm good. I just want to make sure.
Not yet, though. There may be a metric of like celebrity fandom. Maybe that's something we might come up with.
Okay.
We might have to match up with that. But this is good. This is good. Any team that runs a lot of 12, I am here for it, and the Falcons do not, and therefore that is maybe a possible non-negotiable, a very big red flag in Preston's dating of NFL teams.
Preston gets his escape hatch. He will also get questions on the other side about the team speaking at SEC Media Days today. That's next here on the early game. Look, if tax troubles are weighing you down, John Ecton and the Ecton Law Firm are here to make it just one less thing you have to worry about. You don't need to let it happen anymore. You can let the stresses of taxes being taken care of by the Ecton Law Firm. Just set up a free consultation today with this number, 803-771-9800. They have a local team that's resolving income or business tax issues for good at the Ecton Law Firm. They certainly understand the challenges you or your business can face, and that's why John Ecton and his team are ready to offer you that peace of mind that you know you deserve. With proven local solutions, they've helped thousands of families and businesses just like yours escape that IRS maze. So take this first step. Worry-free life today. Give them a call, 803-771-9800, or visit EctonLawFirm.com. That's ECTON lawfirm.com. For a day 2 of SEC Media Days edition of Preston or Reston. And our teams today, Preston: Auburn, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas. I'll give you the old Dan Le Batard TV question. Are you intrigued, see or no?
Is that an answer?
That's a neutral answer.
You know what? Let me change that. Let me play the game. C.
C. Okay, there you go. You have to have the subtle sign there. The C.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's some intrigue with some of these teams. So I try to find the most interesting thing about some of these teams and then make a take, formulate one, and we'll do Preston or Reston. So the first one, the addition of Jackson Arnold and wide receiver Eric Singleton is solid pickups, but they're not enough to make Auburn's offense feel like they're quote-unquote back.
Preston, we haven't really known what Jackson Arnold is to start with. He wasn't what he was supposed to be at Oklahoma. That's why he's not there anymore. They essentially pushed him out the door. And I'm really interested in how this golf story is going to play out because, again, as I've stated, it is a very dumb story. But this is SEC football, and we are known to do dumb stories. And even more so than that, that's Auburn. And if you just have to think about how dumb they are, look at how they tried to push their – or not how they tried. Look at how they pushed their last coach out on a very dumb story. So it can happen.
It can and it will happen. Preston or Reston, Georgia's wide receivers limited the Bulldogs' ceiling last year with all of those drops. That won't be the case this year.
Well, I guess maybe Gamecock fans could be particularly interested in the Bulldog wide receivers because their wide receiver coach was our coach for 47 days. So maybe we actually ended up making out best in that situation considering their wide receivers dropped the ball a lot.
Yeah, and I think South Carolina probably upgraded on that one.
I do.
A little bit, because I think they're doing pretty good in that category right now, and Georgia's still looking for one who can reliably catch the ball on third down. Wasn't the case last year. Preston or Reston, despite leading the SEC in Biggins last year, Tennessee having to settle for Joey Aguilar at quarterback after Nico left and having a lack of explosive wide receivers makes them feel more like a middle-of-the-road SEC team this year.
Preston, I am very interested in this story because I applaud Tennessee and the admin and Josh Heupel for taking a stand against Nico and his father. I applaud that. But the rubber's going to meet the road when Joey Aguilar throws 3 picks against a G5 school in Neyland Stadium, and people are starting to wonder how righteous they really want to be. So I am really paying attention to this story.
You know what my spiciest take on the Tennessee Volunteers is this year going into the season?
I'm ready.
Joey Aguilar's not the best quarterback on the roster.
Okay.
That'd be George McIntyre.
They do have some young fellas that are pretty good, correct?
Yep, he's a quarterback out of Brentwood Academy. I covered him pretty closely when he was in high school when I was doing a high school football scoreboard show in Nashville. That kid can sling it. He's a little skinny, thin of frame, put some muscle on him, and I think he'll already be better than Aguilar.
Now, you being familiar with the landscape of that territory, will the fans more than likely want to have a hometown kid take over that spot?
When Aguilar throws that first pick, absolutely.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. The calls for George, I think, will be pretty loud in that stadium before no time. Lastly, Preston or Reston, Texas has the best and most complete roster in the SEC this season.
I'm gonna push on this because I'm not absolutely familiar with their roster. I do believe Texas has the best offensive play caller in Steve Sarkisian. Everybody says that they have one of the best quarterbacks. That does tend to be a solid thing. So I haven't studied their roster necessarily to make that declaration, but with those 2 key pieces, I do look for them to be successful.
I'm of the belief, like with Arch Manning, because a lot of people are talking about how good he can be. My thing is, I don't think he has to be with the roster that they have around him. I think the running back room's really good. They get C.J. Baxter back this year. He tore his ACL before the season started last year. And that defense is stupid. 2 hours down, 1 to go. First down for your life. And talking Gamecock tight ends next here on the Early Game.
Percival Road near Forest Drive, a report of an accident there, and also reporting on Percival Drive, a slowdown there near Screaming Eagle Road, and some stop and go traffic as we do tend to have in the mornings. I-26 eastbound between exit 102 and 107B. So basically, Lake Murray Boulevard to Malfunction Junction. It's a little bit on the slow side this morning. And forecast wise, 92 today and tomorrow, 94 on Thursday, 95 on Friday. Those chances for afternoon storms popping in, a little bit of humidity. Welcome to summer. It's currently not quite 95 yet. No, it's 75 on 107.5 The Game.
Hour number 3 of the early game starts right now. I am live here in Atlanta, Georgia at day 2 of SEC Media Days with the backdrop behind me of the ballroom where today the teams that are speaking, I think in this order, Auburn, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas. Back over at the home studios, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen. We have a fun final hour for you talking Gamecock football. First down for your life. Message board mayhem coming up in the next segment and a whole lot more. I want to revisit first down for your life because I got some tallies, Preston Thorne, and some names, some blasts from the past names that were brought up. Now, maybe don't have the same diversity we did with receivers yesterday, but a pretty good list here. And if you had to guess, I'll let you guess first. We'll lead off with a hypothesis. Who do you think Gamecock fans trust with their life the most from a tight end on 4th and 15?
I'm going to go with Hayden Hurst.
Dominantly Hayden Hurst. 5 Hayden Hurst votes so far. 3 for Rory Anderson. 2 for Justice Cunningham and Jared Cook. And others with 1, Andy Boyd, Boomer Foster, Willie Scott, and Nate Atkins.
Willie Scott, first-round pick for the Gamecocks, a legend. Absolutely. My guy, Andy Boyd, was my rehab partner when we both tore our knees up. So that's me and Andy are connected for life. Love my dude, yes. Andy Boyd. Those are all great names.
Interesting. What goes into when you have the same injury as somebody and you're rehabbing at the same time. Like you almost have no option but to get close with that person.
Yeah. We
use the same facility.
We spent a lot of times on tables getting stretched out and yelling and crying with each other. So Andy's my dude for life.
Did you guys recover at the same time?
Actually, sort of. Yeah, Andy was a little bit later than me, and he had Andy might have been one of the first guys on the check his birth certificate because I think he actually ended up getting an extra medical year when those were very difficult to come by in the NCAA at that time.
What was that process before we get into the tight end situation this year? Like before now, where if you don't, now players are just taking the NCAA to court for their eligibility or trying to at least take them to court to speed up the process or threaten legal action, threaten a trip to Lawsuit City to speed up the process. What was it kind of like in the early 2000s when you had to apply for a medical red shirt or try to get that extra year of eligibility?
Long and arduous, and you just essentially you submit your paperwork into the black hole, which is the NCAA. It was then, it is now. And more than often, they would come back with a no. I forget what Andy's specifically circumstances was, but for instance, in my situation, I believe I got injured in the 3rd game of the year, and it was not even an option to submit for getting an extra year of eligibility. It was not even on the table.
Ooh. Oh, that's brutal. Like, was that before, I guess, like a rule was implemented where you could do that?
There was no, this was also Back in the day, in the year 2000, Elijah, this was also back in the idea where the concept of burning a red shirt was available. So, like, if you played one play during that time period, your red shirt year would be your red shirt year would not be available anymore. So they've remedied that by having the red shirt allowance. I believe it's 4 games now, and it was a similar situation to injuries. If you stepped on the field, essentially that started your clock for a year.
Interesting. Yeah, boo to that old rule. Glad that's changed. That we've changed that rule there. And so some guys, even as hard as it was to get one medical red shirt, Jason White got 2, and he used one to steal a Heisman from Larry Fitzgerald. I'll never forget. I'm going to hold that grudge forever, holding on that one as long as I live. But we've talked a lot of tight ends today. Obviously, if you have any thoughts to weigh in on our Firehouse Subs text line, 803-404-6100. The number's the same for the phone line, too. You can call us and tell us just as much. I know our boy Joe's been calling in recently to get his first down for his life. But the current Gamecock tight end situation, obviously one of the more under-talked about players to have to replace was Josh Simon, the leading receiver from last year, the safety button, or the easy button, the safety valve, whatever you want to call him. He was the most reliable option in the passing game last year. Mike Shula, the offensive coordinator now, there's some precedent of him leaning heavily on the tight end when he was an offensive coordinator, specifically when he had a dude in the tight end room with Greg Olson and a quarterback who could make plays happen with his arm and his legs, and Cam Newton. I expect Michael Smith to be a name that we talk about a lot when the season starts. That's a player that, if we're talking about a jump from being more of a backup role and into a starter that excels, Michael Smith can be that surprise for a lot of people here in 2025.
Elijah, let me run down 3 things really quickly. First, when I read this, did I read this correctly that Josh Simon is the single season touchdown record for tight ends for the Gamecocks? Does that sound right?
Ooh, it sounds right. He scored a lot of them last
year. That was absolutely surprising when I read that. Now I had to read it twice. I wrote it down. I'm like, I don't know if this doesn't feel right, but maybe just because doing recency bias, like, wow, maybe he was really that good and that important to the offense. So that's the first thing, having to replace them. 2, this is a little bit sillier. Michael Smith wearing number 20. How do we feel about number 20 for a tight end? Yeah or no?
You know what? I don't hate it, but I want to say he's going to be wearing number 4 this year.
Nice, better choice. Which
is I think is more apropos for a tight end. I love single digit numbers on pass catchers. When it comes to uniform rules, to me, single digits for pass catchers or in the 80s, like showing out like the Randy Moss, like 84, 88. I saw Randy Moss's number 88 Marshall jersey when meandering through the College Football Hall of Fame here.
Nice number.
And I saw that. And it reminded me, beautiful number, 88, perfect number for a pass catcher. And I put tight ends in that same role, even though maybe if you were a blocking tight end, if you were like one of the big fellas that's there to block, I'm trying to think of a good NFL example of a great blocking tight end, like Bubba Franks. You got to be in the 80s. You got to be in the 80s, man. You got to be in the 80s. If you are like the quintessential Iowa tight end, that number has to be between 80 and 90.
Was Kittle's 85, correct? If I remember.
Kittle's 85.
Kittle's 85. He's awesome. He's one of the best.
And you were correct. Josh Simon, 7 touchdowns, and that was a record surpassing Clyde Bennett's from 1953, where he had 6.
Okay, yeah. So okay. Thank you, Jen. I read that and I was like, wow, really? But I guess in retrospect, because it was the easy button, maybe yes, he was really good. Mm-hmm. And I guess I may be underestimating how important it's going to be to replace that production.
It is. Yeah. And one thing I liked about Josh Simon, too, and the one play I'm going to allude to here was that touchdown he scored against Kentucky, where Kentucky's clearly in a zone defense, and Lenore's kind of rolls out to his right a little bit, stops, and Josh Simon just finds the soft spot in that zone. And there wasn't anybody within 5 yards of him. And he just scored that touchdown so easily. He got open so easily. He was really good, especially when a play broke down, at finding the soft spot in the defense. And I think that might be the next step for Michael Smith, is to be able to, when a play breaks down, and because of Lenore's escapability and his ability to get out of a broken pocket, hopefully there's not too many broken pockets this year, but it's going to happen from time to time. When that happens and things kind of go off script, being able to find that soft spot is such a valuable skill for a tight end that if he can pick that up, if that's something that he can learn over the offseason, gets better at, or even has it right now, but finally will get a chance to show it, then he can absolutely be that easy button for this offense.
Elijah, I have a piece of breaking news. I want to throw this out there. We know that teams are reporting to camps. NFL teams are reporting to camp. Do you know what team Joshua Simon is reporting to?
I was just going to make mention of this. It's
Would
just
that
looking
be
so bad for you.
Would that be the one NFL team that is desperately searching
Desperately
for Preston
seeking.
Thorne's?
Yeah, there's that
desperately
movie.
seeking his soul.
Yeah, there was a movie way back when, Desperately Seeking Susan. I think the Falcons are desperately seeking Preston. That's what this segment is turning into.
Something's happening here. I don't know, but yes, Josh
Falcons.
is currently on the active roster for the Falcons. We'll see. Hopefully, he holds on and makes the squad.
I think he does it. I think he does. I know, like in pro sports, like there's kind of this when it comes to the draft. I know Josh wasn't drafted, but teams like kind of avoid older players like the plague. And I've never understood that. Like it's worse in the NBA. It is a straight up issue in the National Basketball Association of not taking guys at a certain point in the draft or drafting them at all because they may be 23, 24 years old. When I'm a firm belief, if you can get a person that can help you on your team right now, this very instant, and have to have them on a rookie deal, you absolutely take it. I think Josh Simon makes that roster.
That'll something we'll definitely keep our eye on.
Yeah, certainly. Even though the Falcons might want to run a little more 12 personnel instead of doing it like 5% of the time, which is, I think, or maybe it's like 6 or 7, very low percentage. But with this team too, a lot of 12 personnel. Possibly that's one of we're not giving out winners of the show just yet, but I have a feeling 12 personnel is going to be a winner on the show today. But with the room the way it is, Michael Smith can be your pass catching back. I like what Brady Hunt and specifically Jordan Dingle, because he was asked to do that a lot at Kentucky, with what he can do as a blocker and as somebody, if you need him to even line up as a tackle, can do that, because he did do that on 3 different occasions last year at Kentucky.
Now, Elijah, maybe you can answer this question for me with Jordan Dingle. It seems as if he had success very early in his career, and then there was a lull. Was there an injury period, or was it just the natural ebbs and flows of a college career?
He does have a red shirt, and
Okay.
I do believe that red shirt might have been because of injury. I think in 2021 he was a freshman, but he only saw action in 4 games. It does not say that he was injured, but they did redshirt him.
Gotcha.
Caught 2 passes that year. But he was definitely more involved in the passing game earlier in his career at Kentucky. And I think last year Kentucky's passing game was just so dysfunctional. Like the Brock Vandagriff thing was a disaster. And Kentucky's passing game was just so broken that it behooved Mark Stoops to really dig into his Hayden Fry roots at Iowa and really lean into just running the ball as much as humanly possible. And that's kind of how they deployed him. But, I mean, it gives you a good – if you just look at Jordan's career, it gives you a good, like view into what his skill set is as a tight end, how multifaceted he can be as a blocker and a pass catcher. And reminder, the first play of the spring game this year, he did catch that wishbone trick play and took it for 29 yards.
And who that was Mike Shula's call on the wishbone trick play? Who made that call?
I'm glad you asked, Preston Thorne. That was from the brain trust of the early game, LLC. That was my play call. That was a career average of 29 yards per play as a play caller. Hang the banner. Those are facts. And I can retire that way as a play caller and have the highest average yards per play of any coach in the history of football. And I'll take that. I'll take that to this day. And I can have Jordan Dingle to thank for that, because him securing that pass and Lenore Sellers zipping it to him made that happen.
Solid.
I'll take it forever. I absolutely will. I'll take it. It didn't necessarily make the message boards go crazy, or did it? I don't know. I didn't dive too far into it after the spring game.
You blocked out the outside noise, right? Because you're not concerned with what people are saying on the message boards.
You know, as a coach, I take the approach of the only opinion that matters is of my fellow coaches, Shane, Mike, and the players in our locker room, right? We blocked out the outside noise. But on the early game, we don't block out the outside noise. We like to think we are the outside noise. And sometimes we like to tell you what the outside noise actually is. And we're going to do that because the message boards are popping because the Gamecocks lost a recruit yesterday. And also, there's a weird Nick Saban theory floating around the message board universe, maybe hinting at a return.
Oh, and
Sounds
I
pretty
think I heard
crazy.
something about that he has been reaching out to Elijah about a possible, assistant position or something.
Yeah,
I don't
can
know.
neither confirm nor deny,
Okay.
but I'm going to keep that rumor floating.
Okay.
And you might find that in a message board as well. It may or may not be fueled by somebody with inside information. I might have leaked that. Who knows? We'll find that out because message board mayhem is next here on the early game.
It's Jen for CHW Cabinetry in Lexington. We ended up having to unexpectedly demolish our kitchen and take it down to the studs due to a flood. And it was not, I can tell you, was not in the mood to go find cabinetry, that's for sure. But somebody said, hey, CHW Cabinetry does a great job. Check them out. We did, clicked, everything was great. They helped us figure out what cabinetry we were looking for, recommended some accessories, got that all ordered, and we got the photorealistic rendering of our kitchen. That was a picture of the kitchen that was done. And then we could take that while they were making the cabinets, we were able to take that and pick out all the other elements. And kitchen cabinetry, not all they do. We've used them for some bathroom cabinetry as well. They can help you out in closets, your pantry. You get the drill. Visit chwcabinetry.com or call them today at 803-520-6837. Tell them Jen Jensen sent you. CHW Cabinetry in Lexington, passion from inspiration to installation. Garners Ferry Road at Lower Richland Boulevard have a report of an accident there. Also, still working the earlier tie up Percival Road near Screaming Eagle Road. And Longs Pond at Two Notch Road in Lexington County also has a report of an accident. 92 is going to be our high today. Might see a pop up shower storm later this afternoon. Those chances continue tomorrow and Thursday and into the weekend. Tomorrow's high 92, and on Thursday, we're looking for a high of 94. The sun keeps trying to make its way out. And so we have a few mixed clouds, 77 right now on 107.5 The Game.
It is time for a little bit of mayhem. It's a little too calm over here. We need a little bit of chaos, and there's no better agent of chaos than a message board going haywire. And Preston, there was some Gamecock news yesterday that maybe didn't get reacted to as well on the message board because recruiting losses sometimes are treated maybe worse than football game losses.
We had a local reaction. We have a radio host who apparently lost it and was ready to burn down the whole system. Jen, can we get clip number 49 of a local radio host losing it over a Gamecocks not winning a recruiting battle?
And by the way, Tamarian Watkins has now indeed grabbed, we'll see if it stays on, he has grabbed the flat-billed Texas A&M hat, and a cousin has just held up a Texas A&M shirt. And so South Carolina has, and now the family is removing gear to show that they are all in on Texas.
Bill, I think he's going to Texas A&M.
Are you watching it now? Yeah, there's
no, but just the way you laid it out, I think that sounds like he's probably going to be an Aggie.
You don't know with these things. I mean, there's a long way to go. There's a lot happening today, obviously, for us with Shane Beamer talking, with Greg Sankey talking. Phenomenal interview last hour. David Ayers working on getting that up with Lenora Sellers. This is money. It's money. He chose. Look, there's nothing wrong with Texas A&M. It's not like he chose Georgia Tech or Mississippi.
Local radio host says it's all about the money, Elijah. Message board mayhem begins. What you got for us?
Oh, man. Texas A&M has also kind of fostered this environment, and they've done this to themselves because they're not shy about letting you know what the funds are like, what the reserves are like, whether it be oil or money. When Jimbo Fisher had that number one recruiting class a couple of years back, that was kind of the gasoline on the fire of what was a little bit of a simmering beef between Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher.
Oh, it's one of my favorite moments from media days.
Oh, one of the best.
Yes.
One of the best. That was one of my favorite days in sports talk in my career, because I just cut up a couple of just like 1 second like snippets from it, like quips from Jimbo Fisher, and I used it forever. I need to find that presser again so we can use those on this show.
That presser was the beginning of the acknowledgement of sliced bread, I believe was the message board guy. He said, sliced bread of Texas A&M message board. Yes, great moment in college sports history. Another moment that should probably go in the audio Hall of Fame of college sports history.
Oh, it absolutely should. Like that, and that kind of started. I didn't start it. It enhanced the reputation of A&M dropping bags for recruits. And now every time they steal a recruit from somebody's backyard, like in this instance, the first reaction is money. And Stephen Bessinger, one of our loyal listeners tweeted at me yesterday asking me if I thought it was just money. And I don't know the details of the recruiting process with A&M and Watkins and what his relationship was specifically with South Carolina and other schools that were in the running. But I just kind of responded with, recruiting is complex. It can be money. It can be. I don't want to definitively say it is. It can be, but there's so much that goes into it too. Playing time opportunity. And if you're losing recruits to playing time opportunity, that's a best case scenario for South Carolina because that means you're deep, and that means other schools are negatively recruiting it because they're looking at your roster and saying, look, they got some dudes there. You might be playing behind them for a little bit. But it could be, also like scheme fit. It could be maybe they just had a better relationship. I don't know if it is definitively, but there's so much that goes into it. But anytime Texas A&M steals a recruit now, it is 100% going to be attributed to the funds that they have and the amount of money they're able to provide that recruit because of the reputation. This is a reputation-based take, I would say.
Yeah, and but here's my pushback to anybody who makes that argument. So what? Maybe it might just be about the money. Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of people make decisions every single day about just the money. I'm imagining there's people right now who are working for companies you might be listening to, and I appreciate you listening, but you might be working at a company simply because of the money, right? And that might be the reason why. It may not be the best reason. It may not be the reason that lends to the best culture around a company or corporation, organization, etc. But that might be the reason. Now, obviously, if it was just money, South Carolina was in the rankings to obviously they were in the ballpark. So it's not as if we just was like, oh, just come play for us. We have a lot of culture here and we have a lot of great things. No,
Right.
Obviously we were in the same ballpark and maybe not or whatever the case was. So I don't ever want to demonize or make it a thing where if a young person or anybody chooses to go somewhere for the money, that's their choice. May not be the choice that I would solely consider. It may not be the only thing that I would consider. But if that's something that somebody solely considers, I'm not mad at them.
Right. We all value different things in life. And sometimes what you're valuing is a better financial situation. That's human nature. And that's totally explainable. And I'm with you. I'm at the point now, I don't really care. Even before the advent of NIL, if a kid chooses to play for a school, if Javonte Smart got that strong, offer from Will Wade to play at LSU, good for him.
Right.
Good for you. Take that strong offer, and take it and run with it and benefit yourself financially. It's one of those things. I don't know if I could care less about money being a factor for somebody, and for those where it's not, awesome. I'm maybe even happier for you where it doesn't have to be a big part of what your decision making is. If that's the case, even better for you.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, again. Maybe everybody has a different value system, and that's fine. I would just position that, hey, South Carolina was down to the final two, and if this recruit during his recruiting said that there was a certain number or a certain financial package, hey, South Carolina was in the ballpark because they almost landed it. So it's not as if we are not playing the same game. We just may not have wanted this one, but we have won in others. And what's always interesting to me is that when you lose one, it's about the money. But when you get a recruit, it's about culture.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. The narrative changes a little bit depending on if you want it.
Right. Right. So it's always fascinating to me.
And the one thing I will remind everybody, and this is also a byproduct of the college sports landscape that we live in now, just because they don't commit right now doesn't mean they still can't wear your uniform in a year or even in 6 months.
They're kids. They can change their mind.
They're kids. Paper shredders are in business because of how many times people get out of their NLIs.
And I think
right?
this is, yes, and this is an especially important point with a local guy like Tamarian Watkins, who's from Northwestern, from South Carolina. He may get out to Texas A&M and be like, oh, they do yell practice? These dudes are weird. I don't like this. I want to go back home. You never knows what happens, so let's see how it plays out.
I'm sure he wouldn't be the first player to go to Texas A&M and realize he's way too uncomfortable in that environment. Before we get out, though, there is a message board clip that I snagged from Message Board Geniuses where someone on SEC Rant says, mark this post, he will be back in Baton Rouge to coach the Tigers next year if we don't make the playoffs. I know people who know. And yes, that is in reference to Nick Saban. My response, Don't get your hopes up, buddy. Don't get your hopes up.
Yeah,
Shane Beamer's, yeah.
that seems far fetched to me.
Yeah.
I hope I hold Nick Saban in high regards. I hold him in high regards. He's the GOAT to me. I love the way he coached. I love the way he left the game. I love what he's doing in his post career. I don't want to see him come back.
No, absolutely not at all. So that's if we can avoid him coming back into the SEC, that would be great. More of the early game live, day 2 from SEC Media Days coming up next.
They say perfection is a journey, and our journey led us to Carolina Stone Craftsman just outside Columbia in Chapin when we were looking for some countertops that we needed for cabinetry that we gotten for some bathrooms. And we had heard, from customer idea to fabrication to installation, every step of the process would go well, and it did. It was absolutely meticulous. They were so helpful in guiding us as to what exactly we were going to be needing, what we might find to work best in the bathrooms. And every step of the process was absolutely flawless. Their showroom is fabulous. Definitely need to go check that out. They have an outdoor showroom to show you different hardscapes that they can do and outdoor kitchens. There's so much that they can serve you with in every aspect of your life. I encourage you to reach out to Carolina Stone Craftsman and tell them Jen Jensen sent you for sure. Just beyond Columbia in Chapin, beyond your expectations. Visit them online, carolinastonecraftsman.com. Garner's Ferry Road at Lower Richland Boulevard. Still working an earlier tie up there, and things getting cleaned up Percival Road near Screaming Eagle. In Lexington County, Longspond Road at Two Notch Road, also a report of a slowdown due to an earlier accident. And we're looking for the pattern of humid conditions, pop-up storms to last with us through this week and into the weekend. 92 today and tomorrow, 94 Thursday, 95 on Friday. And again, afternoon storms are a distinct possibility. But it's warming up a little bit, 77 currently on 107.5 The Game.
Coverage here at the game, brought to you by CHW Cabinetry. And if it's good enough for Jen Jensen, buddy, it's good enough for you too.
That's the best tagline.
It is. We didn't get a tagline for this one specifically, but I made one. Rolling with it on the fly.
I love
That's
it.
What we do.
I think it's absolutely
Professionals around
perfect.
here.
Call me and let me know if you have any questions.
That's right, but we will not give out Jen's number on air. You have to earn that.
I appreciate that.
Some of you are weird. We don't do that.
Yeah, we do not. Yeah, exactly. We do not do that. We
Actually,
will protect Jed.
Let me tell you, from doing music radio for a long time, you do get some interesting phone calls, some interesting propositions. There's things about feet. I don't know. I'm just saying that music radio can be a little interesting.
It can get weird.
It can get weird. So anyway,
We talked about the strong offers that Will Wade offered Javonte Smart, back pre-NIL. I don't know if we consider those offers strong by any stretch of the imagination. Don't think so. Don't think so. But Shane Beamer gets pretty good offers, and he gets a lot of players here to Columbia, and they've made some big impacts. And one of the big things in terms of having to refill position groups, and we played this for you in the first segment of the show. Didn't get to react to it a ton, but I want to play it here. Cut 14, Jen. We talked about the defense a lot and having to refill some key roster spots, but they're going to have to fill everything for the special teams.
6th year in coaching coming up, and I don't believe I've ever been a part of a team that has to replace literally every key part of their special teams units like we do this season. We'll have a new punter, we'll have a new place kicker, we'll have a new kickoff guy, we'll have a new holder, we'll have a new snapper, we'll have a new punt returner, and we'll have a new kickoff returner. So we've been very spoiled. Every punt that we've punted the football at South Carolina since I've been the head coach, Kai Kroger has punted the ball. So the first time we punt, and hopefully that won't be anytime soon, we'll have a new punter out there as well. But those are guys that are young and talented, and excited to see what we do in year 2 under Joe DeCamillis as our special teams coordinator. We've got to continue to be aggressive and opportunistic there. We've led the SEC in block kicks since 2021.
See, a lot of production that we are going to have to replace on the special teams part. And obviously Shane Beamer's background is rich with special teams pedigree. But Preston, you hear that, and we'll talk more later when we get closer to camp about who's filling in those spots. But you hear that, how much of a concern maybe should that be? Because we have a lot of emphasis on offense and defense, but when you're replacing quite literally everything on the special team side of the football, How much of a concern does that raise for you?
A huge one. We've been in the minority of most of college football, and where we, as a fan base, we largely did not have to worry about special teams. In fact, special teams has been a benefit for us. There's this thing in college football. It's called the college kicker. We haven't had to deal with that very often in South Carolina. History, really, we've been really fortunate for probably almost the past 15 years, really, which could go us to a whole nother conversation. Kick for your life, Elijah. We might have to do that.
Ooh,
Um,
yep.
But we've been very fortunate, and sometimes even we've taken it for granted how good our special teams have been here, and that we haven't had to worry about an errant snap or a shanked kick or a bad pun or all those types of things that most football teams around the country, especially teams in the middle class like we are, they have to worry about. We have not had to worry about that. So that is something that we probably need to pay a little bit more attention to.
Absolutely. And really the big thing, when I hear that, it makes you curious as to what's going to happen with not special teams, but one-score games. How many one-score games are won and lost by execution on special teams? And we saw last year, Alex Herrera missed the kick against LSU. He missed a kick against Alabama. Those are two one-score games that you lost. And when we look back on teams, in hindsight, you look at, trying to figure out, are they better or worse than maybe what their record showed? And so many teams that lose a lot of one-score games don't do well in special teams. I think the perfect example, Preston, the 2010 Chargers. Back when they were the San Diego Chargers, they were number one in total offense in the NFL in yards gained. They were number one in defense in terms of yards surrendered. They were the worst special teams unit in football. And there were several games that year that went down to the wire where they had to make a kick to win the game or take it to overtime, and they didn't execute it. And instead of a team that was number one in offense, number one in defense, instead of them going to the playoffs and hosting a playoff game, the way most teams that dominate those two stat categories do, they went 8-8 and missed the playoffs completely.
Yeah, and see, when you say stuff like that, that gives me the heebie-jeebies a little bit because, man, we just have not had to worry about that here at South Carolina since Shane Beamer has been here specifically. But even before that, we've been pretty solid on special teams. And it's rare, even those, because Elijah, you may or may not know this. Last year, I was an Alex Herrera truther.
I love a good truther.
I was an Alex Herrera truther because, yes, he did miss those two kicks, but he was money for the rest of the season. And what is interesting is that you don't think about special teams until they start going the wrong way. They start going bad. And largely what we've been able to do here in South Carolina is not have to devote much of our fan power to special teams play. We haven't had to get nervous every time there's a punt or whenever there's a routine kick. We've almost pretty much banked on those things. And I do trust Shane Beamer and the coaching staff to get it right, but much like the other positions on the field, there's unproven talent there. So that is something that I think maybe we might need to raise the flag a little bit more on the concern level.
And last thing here before we get out of the break, Mason Love, you think we see him as the kicker and the punter? I mean, it kind of seemed like he had a leg up, no pun intended there, on both of those kind of battles we were talking about in the spring. And he drilled the pressure kick in the spring game. And by all accounts, he's a guy that they brought to campus to maybe be able to have to pull double duty if he needed to.
Hey, man, if Travis Hunter can play wide receiver and DB, Mason Love can do kicker and punter. Let's go.
I love it. Can we maybe have a discussion during the season that we have the Travis Hunter of special teams on the roster?
I like it.
It's possible. It's possible. And if that's the case, then special teams will consider a winner. Well, to round out today's show, it's time for us to give our winners of today's program. That's next when we conclude the early game. Mike Singletary wanted winners, and I don't know if when he said that he meant Jay Phillips popping on a headset and joining us for the last segment of the early game.
That's winning.
But that's what we got.
Jay.
What's up, Coach P? Hello, Jen. Yeah, winter is probably a little much for me, but I'm here. I'm a participant.
Jay, who's your winner for today's show? You've got to sit down and listen for a little bit.
Is it between the three of you?
Oh, in terms of just it's an overarching thing. Like when you were listening to the program.
I'm just going to pick Jen.
Good call.
All right.
Good call.
Yeah.
Good call.
That just it's
smart.
That's the right way
Safe
to go.
bet.
Smart.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the safety valve, the easy button.
Yeah.
I scare people.
Plus, that way I don't get cut off. You know?
Correct.
'Cause I know.
Forgot the
I know
power
where.
wheel.
Yeah, I know exactly. I know the Jedi mind tricks and all the things that she has at her disposal. So
She has it. She will use it.
savvy.
Jay, when was the last time that you used the word participle?
Oh wow. I guess as an English student at the University of South Carolina, I guess probably not even probably not even then,
You
man.
say probably before.
I feel like participle is something that you get in like middle school.
Yeah.
Coach P, you're a teacher. When does I
Yeah,
feel like that's one of those teaching moments way back.
I pulled it from very deep down in the cobwebs of maybe 3rd to 4th grade grammar school, essentially. But I was trying to figure out there was a sentence, and I thought maybe it was like a hanging participle or maybe a present participle or something along those. You remember diagramming sentences? That was
Yes. Yes.
Oh, my mom
did it-
was an English teacher. Trust me, I learned how.
Do the kids diagram sentences anymore?
Jay, we're just going to be good if we can get the kids to write a sentence today.
Yeah,
And
that's
not-
true.
and then we
Without
don't-
the help of Chat
Yeah, we don't want them to chat GPT the sentences.
Yeah, I remember.
my-
I remember one time hearing there was somebody who yelled some foul language at when my mom and dad were driving down the interstate, and apparently didn't like how my dad merged on or something. And my husband was in the back seat, and he said, "Hey, Phyllis, tell him to diagram that sentence." You know. Anywho,
Yeah, well, yeah, diagramming sentences. That was fun.
Yeah,
That's one way to put it.
Yeah.
that's a way to go about it.
educational.
Yeah.
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 But look at us all here. Present participles. Look at it. It must have worked
We
for
made it.
something. We made it through it.
That's good.
Thanks to Coach P, we got a participle
Well,
dropped
that is-
during the show.
That
And
is good.
I can't remember the last time I have just heard that word used. Again, probably 6th grade.
Well-
yeah, I was thinking that's not. Yeah, that's probably more accurate than college.
Well, Jay, it was referenced in the idea that Greg Sankey was talking, and he essentially said, "We get into a room and we can all agree, but we don't need unanimity." And I thought that was
Yeah.
just a very interesting sentence from him.
Yeah. Well, it was. And he was strong yesterday. I
Yes.
think we were discussing a little bit of what he was saying, in terms of the memorandum of understanding and some of those things. And it was a flex, but what kind of
A
flex?
Tyrannosaurus flex.
Yeah. But again, just this is just. I know it's not the same thing, but like we talked about the Rasul Faison thing. Like, just give me a decision.
Something.
It's the waiting. What are we waiting on? SEC, Big Ten. What are we waiting on? What are we doing here? Just give me a schedule format. Give me a format for the playoff, and let's go enjoy the football. I'm tired of the other distractions.
Agreed.
We talk about winners. A 9-game schedule would be a winner.
Listen, 9, 10, I don't care.
10 would be the
10 would
biggest
be
winner.
awesome. We did 10 once. We can do it again,
We can.
right?
We absolutely can.
I mean, he proved it.
There's a way for this to be done.
Just we didn't play Clemson that year. I say South Carolina didn't play Clemson that year, but other than that, it was fine.
Preston Thorne, who's your winner for today?
My winner for today is 12 personnel, Elijah.
Yes.
My winner for today is 12 personnel because it had one of my favorite combinations in what was kind of a dark time in Gamecock history. But when we were running 12 personnel and we had Hayden Hurst and Casey Crosby lining up at tight ends, it was one of my favorite times to be a Gamecock fan. I just love those two players. I love what they brought. It was sort of two different styles of playing tight end, but both of them were tough. Both of them could catch. Both of them were great athletes. Two of my favorite players in tandem. So 12 personnel is my winner for today. You brought me back to a good time.
I guess we're hoping for some of that this year.
I think we'll get a lot of that this
They
year.
got tight end depth.
I think
And
so.
we talked about Michael Smith
I like
replacing
him.
the easy button.
Yeah.
Michael Smith can be that easy
I
button.
think so.
That's why he's my
Jay,
winner for the show.
Jay, I mentioned to Elijah that without knowing anything about his story, I went to an open practice during the Muschamp era, I saw a huge man with long, flowing, beautiful red hair, and I said, that guy's a pro, and it ended up being Hayden Hurst.
Yeah, first round pick.
Yeah, he was amazing.
So what did somebody call him on the show? The Garnet Thor.
Garnet Thor. Yeah, great nickname too. All first team nicknames.
Yeah,
had a Garnet Thor reference drop today. Jay Phillips, first down for your life. You only pick Gamecock tight ends. Who would you take? Is Hayden Hurst yours?
I'm torn. Remember, we had a start bench drop of the tight ends last week. I chose Jared Cook.
Yeah,
I started Jared Cook, benched Willie Scott, and dropped Hayden Hurst.
Oof, tough.
But that was, that was not an easy one.
That's tough.
But that's a nod to my youth and the first round draft pick that was also Willie Scott.
Absolutely.
Who was awesome.
Your vote for Jared Cook made him just fall one short of Hayden Hurst. He Kevin Dyson to the competition. Hayden Hurst, the most popular pick in first down for your life. We'll do it again tomorrow for day 3 of SEC Media Days. But Tyler Head coming up next here on The Game. Yes. There's so much that we want to do in the summer, so much that we want to get taken care of. But Zero Res can make sure that they give you one less thing to have to worry about, and that is cleaning your home, because the drippy popsicles, the messy mud of summer when it rains can ruin that fun. But the lasting clean of Zero Res is here to help. And if you love deals, I love deals. Take advantage of the summer deal. They're only offering this once a year. So take advantage of the summer sale for 15% off carpet, air ducts, area rugs, upholstery, tile and grout, and more, all for 15% off. Just tell them Elijah Campbell sent you. And their patented cleaning process the Zero Res uses, 0 harsh chemicals. None, nada, zilch. Creates a clean that's safe for your family and your pets. Schedule online, ZeroResColumbia.com. Zero Res. Spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean.